Welcome to 843 TV. I'm your host, Lisa Richardson.
And I'm your other host, Annalisa Itkor. And we are lucky today to be on the beautiful dock here in Colleton River community. And joining us today, we have 4 residents who are very excited to share their experience living here. First off, we'll have Sam Boyd.
Next, we'll have Mark Heiner, who's been a long-term resident here to share about some of his fun activities.
And last but certainly not least, we have Marcia and Jack Conover, also residents here, very excited to tell us about their own experience.
So stick around and join us for this episode of 843 TV,
where communities come to speak.
843 TV, where Bluffton comes to speak.
Where Spring Island comes to speak.
Where Hilton Head Island comes to speak.
Where Beaufort comes to speak.
.843 TV,
where communities come to speak.
Welcome to 843 TV here at the beautiful Colleton River Dock, where today we are talking with several members to the community, and they're sharing all about what brought them here. And joining us here now is Sam Boyd. Good to see you. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Now, Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you moved from, and how long you have been here in Colleton River.
Well, my family and I moved here 12 years ago from the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, that's quite a difference.
Yeah, so we've been in Colleton 12 years, which has been fantastic, and we've been able to see Colleton and Bluffton really grow.
You have, yes.
And it's just grown into this beautiful thing it is today. It's just been great.
So you may not know this, but Sam and I actually, we know each other. I got here today and I saw your face and I went, oh. So Sam and I play tennis together.
Yeah.
And I've had the pleasure of playing here on your beautiful facilities. Tell us a little bit more about the tennis facility here.
Well, we have 6 clay courts. One of them is lighted, and it was designed by Stan Smith, and he did a beautiful job. And we have a really a lovely, friendly tennis community here that really ranges in all levels, which is nice. So you can kind of play for fun if you want, or you can play competitively on leagues. And so yeah, you've been here.
Well, and one of the other things that I love about your facility is you have really comprehensive viewing areas, because it isn't always just about playing. Sometimes it's really fun when you have family come and watch. And you've got great viewing areas and that wonderful clubhouse. Tell us a little bit about the clubhouse there.
Well, we have 2 clubhouses here, and the tennis courts are next to the Nicholas Clubhouse.
Okay.
And we're about to redo the tennis cottage as well, which is going to be wonderful. So yeah, we do have great viewing areas. I always say I love watching tennis as much as playing it.
Well, and speaking of watching, I mean, there's quite a few leagues and programs here. Tell us a little bit of how you get involved in those.
Well, we have 2 very popular pros, Michael Regan and Gavin Cox, and they're very popular. They do private lessons. They also do clinics, pro expos, round robins, you name it. We have they get really creative, all kinds of fun, competitive tournaments. And then we also have teams, competitive teams. In fact, our 55 and over 4-0 women's team has gone to states twice, 2 years in a row, the past 2 years, and done really well. So, so you can come here, you can just play for fun, or you can come and really compete all over Bluffton and the island, representing Colleton.
Well, and I know from experience you put out excellent teams here, and you can bring in people from outside the community, right? Can't people from outside?
Well, sometimes if we need to fill in, if we don't have quite enough at a certain level, but you know, we have mixed teams, we have men's teams and women's teams, and so we can kind of find a team for anybody.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
You mentioned Stan Smith, excuse me, and for those who may not know Stan, he's got quite a background in tennis, and he lives here locally still and very active in the community, so that just adds to the culture. Share a little bit about who Stan is, for those who don't know, and how that fits into the overall culture, just having the quality of professional, former professionals around here.
Yeah, well, we have, I mean, he's a big name, and in fact, I mean, his shoes have gotten incredibly popular.
Lately. Exactly.
Like with the young people, it's amazing. But yeah, he's designed, I think, several courts all over Hilton Head and Bluffton. But what's nice about our courts is, you and I play all over the place, right?
Oh, yes.
A lot of courts like back up to 278, so you have traffic noise or among other issues. Our courts, they're quiet.
Very serene
and it's just surrounded by
surroundings, yeah.
beautiful landscaping. So it's nice.
Well, and it's beautiful
Yeah.
just driving to get to them. I always enjoy the drive to the courts because, I mean, this community is gorgeous.
Well, the drive to anywhere in the here is just beautiful for sure. So
Now, I know that you play a lot of tennis. And you have a family. Do you have time for any other activities or things here in the community?
Well, there's a lot to do, isn't there, outside? I play golf, but tennis is my first love. So I do play golf, and we also like to get out on the water. We get on the jet skis or paddle
yes,
boards.
that's my favorite right there. Yeah.
So there's some great options. So yeah.
And speaking of that, as we're here on this beautiful dock and community, tell us about some of the other things like kayaking that you might be able to do right
Well,
here.
you mentioned stand-up paddleboarding. It looks
Yeah.
like the water is beautiful here for that.
It really is, and it's. I mean, we have storage here. You could storage, if you live in Colleton, you can store your kayaks and paddle boards right here at the dock and just go right on out. And but they also have guided tours as well, which is great, and kayak groups, and yeah, so lots
awesome.
of options.
So you
yeah.
really don't have to leave the surrounding gate of Colleton River to do any of these things. You've got everything
really
right
don't,
here.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you get out much, by the way? Do you?
Well, I got to go play her in
You got to
tennis.
go play, of course. Exactly. So much
We
to do.
force her to come over to Hilton Head every now and again.
What other thoughts might you give to someone who's considering Colleton River over another community? What could you tell them or share in addition that might help them make up their mind and their decisions?
Well, one thing is I think a lot of people identify Colleton River as a golfing community, which it is, and it's fantastic. But there are so many other options. You know, like I'm a tennis player, and I really love our tennis community. It's very close and very friendly. So there are lots of other fun groups that you can join in here and things to do. So
Real
besides
quick,
golf.
speak to raising kids here.
Right. Well, when we moved here, so we have 3 sons, and they were 12 and under when we moved here. So they loved it. And there's maybe not as many kids in here, I think, as a lot of people assume. But there are some, and they're very close with those other Colleton
Yeah.
kids because, and they love growing up here. They're very much, we call them like marsh babies because we live on the marsh, and they grew up on a paddleboard, basically.
Wow,
And
that's
there's this little
awesome.
island behind our house, and they go out there, and they've built a dock and a tree house. And so there
Wow.
there are things for kids to do here,
yeah.
but there's not a ton of kids. But
That sounds idyllic, absolutely idyllic.
yeah.
And a very important thing that you brought up too, because most people are probably thinking this is a retirement or post career type place, but in fact, as you just said, great place for the kids.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining us, Sam.
Thank you.
Please stick with us. We'll be right back with more 843 TV. Welcome back to 843 TV. Joining us now is Mark Heiner, another one of the wonderful residents here in Colleton River. So Mark, why don't you give us a little bit of your history, where you come from, what brought you here?
I am ex-Yankee. I was born and raised in Connecticut, lived all my life there, as did my wife Marilyn. And we arrived here 16 years ago in Colleton, built our house then, but we've been coming to the Low Country for approximately 40 years. Started in Sea Pines actually, and still actually own timeshare in Sea Pines, and we came every single summer up until we moved here. Now we just live here.
Yeah, it's not an uncommon story. Whenever I meet people who are visiting here, I always say, it gets to be a habit, and eventually you live here. So-
Absolutely.
I tell people it was like, after looking around the country at places to live, this was like putting on an old comfortable pair of jeans.
There you go. There you go. With all the different activities to do, we've talked to some guests who love golf, some tennis, but you've got another favorite. Share with us about that.
Well, I came here, as most people did, because of the golf. And one of the things that I knew I was giving up, which I did a lot of in Connecticut, was trout fishing. And in the streams and so on with a fly rod. And when I got here, I knew that wasn't going to happen, at least for trout in the Low Country. And then after a while, I discovered there are redfish out here. And then I discovered that redfish on certain high tides come into the flats, and They have their tails sticking up, and you're in about 1.5 feet, 2 feet of water. And it's kind of, if people have ever fished for bonefish, it's very similar kind of activity. And once I discovered that, it was
A whole new world of fishing for you.
That became #1 activity. Just like in Connecticut, fishing was my #1 activity, and now it is here again.
Well, and we happen to be a little bit of a kindred spirit, and I know I can picture in my head exactly the vessel you fish from, but our audience may not. Tell us a little bit about the exact type of fishing that you do.
Well, these rivers are tidal. They don't have a freshwater source. They're driven by the tide, and our tide here moves anywhere between 7 and 9 feet of water. So when the moon is right and you get higher tides, as right now as a matter of fact, the flats along these rivers, which don't have water in them most of the time, will flood on those spring tides. When that happens, the redfish come in to eat the fiddler crabs and shrimp that get up in there. And for them it becomes a bit of a feeding frenzy, and I get my kayak and kind of drag it through the mud until as before the tide. And then as the tide comes in, I start moving around these flats looking for tailing redfish, see one, anchor the kayak, and very stealthily, hopefully, get out of the kayak and stalk them on foot. And if you get the fly in front of them the right way, they're going to eat it. And then it's a load of fun.
Now, it's amazing to listen because there really is an educational process to get to know around here with the tide changes and all the things you're mentioning. So sounds like you've gotten involved with a program, the Naturalist program. Share with us a little bit about that.
Well, I've always been an outdoors kind of person. I'm an avid bird watcher. One of the things I do here is I run our Christmas Audubon bird count. And so I'm involved in that, but along with all of that, I found out about the Master Naturalist program out of Spring Island, and decided I would take that course. And after taking that course, which ran, I don't know, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is, I never looked at the low country the same way again. You just develop an appreciation for things here.
It's my opinion that everybody who lives here should take it. I mean, and it's become very popular. There's a huge waiting list, I know. And is it run through Clemson, I believe?
Yeah, it's part of Clemson's.
Yep, that's right.
Share a little bit more about that for those who that might pique an interest for them.
Well, when you go, you get this stack of books about yay high, and you get into learning about all the different trees we have here. Wasn't one of my favorite subjects, but I did it. You learn a lot about the marsh and the Spartina grass and the whole incredible life cycle that occurs out here, and how it affects all the rest of the oceans in the low country. And you learn about oysters and the whole thing. It's just amazing.
It's happening right behind us as
Exactly.
we speak.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you talk about the stack of books, but a fair amount of the course is done in the field. I mean, you get out and experience everything, right?
Yeah, we went to some really fantastic places, and as a birder, some of the places we went to were just terrific. But I have to say, bird watching right here in Colleton is pretty special, and there are a lot of species, and I just love it.
Have you gotten any roseate spoonbills this summer?
I actually had, for the first time this summer, first time since I've been here, I had a pair of roseate spoonbills in the marsh behind my house.
Oh,
so I was
how
really,
exciting
I
to
was happy
watch.
about that. Out on the dye course, there's a tree in an area where you see them frequently.
very cool. Very cool.
Well, we heard that there might be some interesting social events that might just pop up on the dock when you're coming in. Tell us about that. Great way to end a day.
Well, there's the kayaking that happens here, and you've already heard about that. But also, I've forgotten even which nights, but you know, friends call friends, and the next thing you know, you come down here and you've got a little buffet set up, and you bring some cocktails.
Wow,
and
great way
you
to end
sit
the
here
day.
and enjoy the evening and watch the sunset, and it's pretty special.
You're right. Not a better way to end the day.
Absolutely.
It is.
You have to come up with like a Colleton River sunset cocktail, or maybe you guys.
Well,
already have.
they actually have some of these events that happen, but inventing a cocktail is not a bad idea.
Well, Mark, it sounds intriguing. We're blessed because we're already here. But for those of you who are not, think about all that and stay right here. We'll be back with more 843 TV. Welcome back to 843 TV. Steer Hill at this beautiful community dock in Colleton River. Joining us now are Marcia and John Conover, fairly new to the area. Welcome and thank you for coming down today.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Lisa.
Now, I understand you've been here about a year, but let's talk about the two of you first of all. Tell us about your history and what brought you here.
All right, well, we just moved here from New Jersey, and we lived in the Midwest and for about 26 years, and now we've decided to retire here.
And as Marcia said, we've lived around in different parts of the country, spent a lot of time looking for where we wanted to retire, and thrilled with Colleton River. Originally, Marcia's from the Midwest in Wisconsin, and I grew up in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Now, you picked a great place to move to. I think we can attest to that.
Definitely.
And all you have to do is look behind us and see that you picked a beautiful community. I understand that you knew a couple when you relocated here, and that's always helpful. But I also know that Colleton River is a very inclusive community. And I imagine you've made a lot more friends since then. Is that true?
Absolutely.
Well, both of us are avid golfers, so we've joined the golf leagues, which there are several. I think there's 4 men's, 3 women's to choose from. And there's all different levels of handicaps, so we jumped right in, and we have met some of the nicest people here that we've ever met. And we've lived in a lot of communities over the years.
Yeah, very nice. And we've done neighbors versus neighbors, and such an as you said, inclusive, friendly
It's a good way to
group.
lose a neighbor.
What did I say?
No, neighbors
Yeah.
versus neighbors.
Oh,
I thought-
neighbors
I know,
meeting
I
neighbors.
understand.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. And versus, but so we've met a lot of people that way, and everybody here has been so friendly. I think there's not a night goes by that we don't get an invite to a party, to dinner, and everybody has a lot of the same goals of what they're trying to accomplish by moving here. So, as you said, very inclusive.
And last time we were out here, we heard the same things from those guests. So certainly it keeps on going and people keep meeting each other and very welcoming. Now we talked about golf. Now obviously Hilton Head in this area is a huge golf place. So how does this golf course stack up for those who are wondering?
Both the golf facilities and both the golf courses are just fabulous here. As we said earlier, we've had the opportunity to live around the country. I traveled extensively for business and was fortunate enough to play golf courses all around the world. And these are as fine as golf courses as I've ever seen, and certainly a large part of why we picked the Colleton River. You know, the funny thing is also when we moved in, I don't think I've ever belonged to a club that had so many low handicap players. And being a middle teen handicapper, I was a little intimidated, but it just goes to show that, you know, you have a lot of people that are excellent golfers and have the wherewithal to join wherever they want, and they pick Colleton River.
Now Marcia, we understand there's a club just for women, CRWGA. What does that stand for, and
Yeah.
how do you fit into that?
That stands for Colleton River Women's Golf Association, and in order to play in it, you have to have a handicap. That's it. You don't have to be a great golfer. They'll accept anybody to play, and it's once a week, and every week they have an event, some kind of a competition, and you win prizes. And they also have special events like member guests and Halloween. They have spectacular. They have a winter events, frosty, whatever, and it's just a lot of fun because that's how you meet women from all different levels of play in golf. There's also 2 other women's leagues, one for 18 handicap and under, and then one for over. So the Colleton River Women's Golf Association is very inclusive and a lot of fun.
And pretty large too. Isn't the membership pretty big?
Yeah, it's like 165
Wow, that
members.
is amazing. That's really
And
amazing.
people come and go as they over the season. So we usually have a pretty good showing on every Thursday.
Very cool. So John, are there other pursuits and interests that you two have found here in the community?
Oh, absolutely. As I said earlier, neighbors versus neighbors.
I'm going to come watch that one.
But we have been, as Marcia said, very active in the golf. A kayak club we've joined.
That's great. Well, what a beautiful place to kayak. Oh,
Absolutely.
I want to come join that.
You know, and as I said earlier, I grew up in Atlantic City, and my father and grandfather were baymen, and just being back on this type of shoreline is just spectacular, I think. Looking forward to other activities, particularly some of the charity work that's done here. As you said earlier, we just moved in last October. There was a little bit of a weather event last year that took us away, and we spent the summer up in New Jersey. So we're still acclimating to Colleton River. And I'm looking forward to the nature hikes. And as I said, Habitat for Humanity is something I was involved in professionally, and look forward to getting re-engaged here. I know Marcia.
Yeah, there's theater groups, there's ladies' libations, there's book clubs, there's walking and talking groups. So I'm excited to get involved in some of the other clubs that they have here. Lots of card clubs. I guess you can choose what you like.
We've been involved with lifelong learning, which has been really interesting. We just went to a session on Ace Basin, which was very enlightening.
Well, it's been amazing meeting all of these people from this community and hearing how much you love it. So thank you for coming out and sharing your experience here in Colleton River.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of 843 TV,
where communities come to speak.